Hey crafty people, it's Tasha here with another video for WOW Embossing Powder. Today we're going to add embossing to every element of this card because I love to make everything wow. I've got these Flowers Fancy dies from Hero Arts and I'm cutting them from some watercolour cardstock. I've cut them twice so that I've got plenty to make a really full arrangement. I do only need one of the banners, so it doesn't matter that the second one is a bit cut off. Now, I'm going to add some colour quickly with my Catherine Pooler inks and a domed foam blending tool. I'm using some heavy doodle memo tape to hold my die cuts, just to try and save my fingers from getting too inky, which isn't really going as planned, but the flowers are going to look good. I'm adding a couple of shades of ink to the larger ones, starting with the lighter ink all over and then going in with a darker colour in the centre. That's going to really help give them some more dimension and a little bit more interest. On the smaller ones though, I can get away with just using the one shade and I just add a little bit more of it into the centre. I didn't really have much of a plan necessarily when it comes to colour scheme. I knew that I wanted those largest flowers to be purple, but other than that, I just sort of went with whatever I was feeling at the time. So I know purples look really good with yellows and oranges because being on the opposite side of the colour wheel from each other, they are complementary. The foam applicator is a little too big for those smallest die cuts, so I'm swapping it out for an itty bitty blending brush. Sometimes I start adding a colour and realise that it's not quite right for what I want. Like the first red that I was using, I felt like it needed to be brightened up, so I'm just going to choose another shade and go over the top with that one. To pick up some more purple, I'm using a much darker shade on these tiny flowers, and then I'm adding a softer shade of the sort of yellow-orange colour for these last ones. That repetition of colour is going to help balance out my finished arrangement. Another way to balance it out is I'm using the same shade of green across all of the foliage pieces. I'm still getting a little variation by going in light to start with and then darkening it up by adding more towards the base of the leaf or stem. Backed those open flowers with some vellum. I just literally glued them on and then trimmed around the edges with some small scissors. Now onto our background whilst the ink on those flowers dries out. I've got this Ode to Andy Warhol bold print stamp from Hero Arts and I'm putting it into my Misty. You're going to need to remove the mouse mat or foam to stamp these rubber cling stamps, which I have already done. Then I've got an A2 panel of Nina 80 and I'm stamping with WOW Ultra Slow Drying Embossing Ink. Making sure that I've got a good amount of ink across the whole stamp, and then I'm using my pressure tool to make sure that I get an even coverage over the entire panel. Out comes my scrap paper and I'm pouring polished gold all over the panel. Pouring it on and giving it some gentle taps just to make sure that powder distributes and covers all of the details. In this, it's kind of like a patchwork scripty design stamp. I'm noticing the edges aren't as well covered, so I'm kind of scooping a little bit back up and tapping gently, and that covers it. The embossing is covering the entire panel, so I'm going to need to hold it with some tweezers to be sure that my hands are out of the way of that heat. Then I'm heating it on setting 2 with a cork board behind it, both to protect my desk from the heat and also because this is actually going to heat up the powder and get it all set faster. It's still going to take a while to do a whole panel, so I have sped this up quite a bit, but as you can see, I'm working across making sure that I hit every section. Now that it's cooled, I can add some colour to really help those flowers and embossing pop off the page. I've got my Big Mama blending brush from Altenew for this. I picked some Hero Arts reactive inks for this and I'm starting with the lighter shade. I want most of my colour concentrated on the bottom right hand corner, so that's where I'm starting and I'm taking that colour up and out. Then I'm adding in a darker shade, again focusing on that same area and just deepening that colour. Once I'm happy with that colour, I'll go back in with the lighter to blend and soften that out into the white. Then just wipe the embossing off to get rid of any extra ink that's sitting on top of it. I've stamped and embossed a sentiment in that same polished gold powder onto the die cut banner, the one that didn't get cut off. And now let's add some fun embossed details to our flowers with a WOW embossing pen. I'm starting by colouring the centres of my flowers, whether that's a solid area or something a little more dotty like this for the largest ones. Our embossing pen is a great way to easily add embossing onto small areas or to add specific details or patterns, even for lettering. Then I can heat set, which won't take long because my heat gun is already warmed up and ready to go. I love the way that polished gold picks up the light. It's just so beautiful. Now, I also tried out adding some embossing to the edges and I loved it. So let's do the same on all of them. I just placed my flower down on my glass mat and I'm tracing round the edge with my embossing pen. I'm just doing it really quickly. Really, you don't need to be precise with this. Then I'm grabbing it with my tweezers again to keep my hands away from the heat. Then I'm just going to dip each petal into the powder that I've already got out on my scrap paper because why not? And I'm using a small brush to remove any excess powder that I don't want on there. I'm also being careful to remove any powder on the back because that will show through the vellum, but you won't get the metallic and it's just going to spoil the look of it. I assembled my floral arrangement off camera because it always takes me ages and involves a lot of switching round. But I've added them all with either liquid glue or some of them I've popped up on foam squares just to give some more dimension. The embossed edges really make the flowers pop, especially once you've got them all arranged together like this. And I'm loving the bright and cheery colours. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really hope that you'll give some of these techniques a try. And don't forget to tag both WOW and I so that we get to see your gorgeous creations. Have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.